Hi everyone, in this video I'll teach you about registers. It actually stores some value. In digital circuit, we have studied about the flip-flops. The flip-flops are the basic circuit used for registers. There are two functions of registers. First is to store some value, okay, and to store data and to movement data. To store some data means if I have some data and I want to use those data for future purpose, magnetic tapes, then after we got floppy disks, then after we have seen some CD, that is called compact discs, then DVD, then we have seen Blu-ray, and in this time with Blu-ray we have seen also micro SD or SD card storage device. This is called SSD, solid state device. That means we can store some image, videos or MP3 for the future uses. So that is called storage purpose. So here we have we are going to study the registers which actually used to store some data. That means, for example, I am using a flip-flop, okay, and each flip-flop having capability to store 1 bit of information. Okay, 1 bit of information can be stored by a flip-flop. Let me take an example. You want to store 10110. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 bit of word. 5 bit of word. And to store this 5 bit word for temporary use, we can use some D flip-flop. Okay, we can use some D flip-flop to store. So if someone asks how many D flip-flop you need to store this 5-bit word, the simple answer is I need 5 D flip-flop. Okay, it is very clear that to store n bit of information we need n number of flip-flop. Okay, and the second part is the data movement. Movement stands as the word indicate movement. It also can say transport the data from one place to another place. For example, this is a machine or circuit. It needs some information by this line, okay, from some unknown source, right? From this unknown source I need some info. This device needs some information and it have only one line, and this device can take binary information only, that means in zeros and one format. So this device is actually store some value to give to this circuit, so it actually provide 1 and 0 in terms of square wave pulse. Okay, for example, in this unknown source I am having a data of 10110. So it is LSB and this is MSB. So in this process, for serial data movement, 0 is entered into the circuit first, then after 1 is entering, then after 1 is entering, then after 0 is entering, then after 1 is entering. That means for serial communication, first LSB go into the destination, followed by the next bit and next bit, and at last MSB is going into the circuit. So this is data movement. That means previously data was stored in some place, and after some time other place needs same data, and the same data is flowing through a line or a bunch of combination of lines. That is called data movement. And data movement is basically two types. One is serial communication and the second one is parallel communication. Serial communication. Serial means one after another. Here, let me explain you through example. I want to transfer 10110. I want to transfer 10110 from the source, let's call this is my source, to the destination or sink. Okay, this is my source, this is my sink. I want to transfer this information to this. I mean, this 5 bit of word has to be transferred to the sink. Okay, as we are studying serial communication, we have one line that is called data line. Okay, this only single line responsible for transmission of data from source to sink. Okay, it also followed by two more lines. Those are ground and one more is VCC. Okay, so how does this transfer occurs? First, as this is my 5 bit word, this is my LSB and this is my MSB. And I told you, while transferring in serial, LSB is transferred first. That means it is very clear that this is power line, this is power line. That means this is high voltage line, this is low ground line, this is low voltage line, and this is the data line. This source and sink both are handshaked with a common line. Okay, this VCC sometimes it needed, sometimes it do not need also. But when both the circuits are connected to a common ground line, so they both understand whatever the data need to be sent or need to be understand, that has a basic reference value that is called ground line. Okay, that means if this source send this information like this is a pulse. Okay, if this source and this pulse, this sink understood this means ground level, this means high voltage level, and this again come back to ground level. Okay, because these lines are connected to the ground and this place is connected to the high voltage supply. That is why this source and sink has a good handshake, so they can understand what the sink can understand what the source is sending. So if I want to send this information to the sink, so in source section, to send this 5 bit word to the sink, first is 0. So the source actually connect this line to ground first. Okay, so this blue line is connected to the ground line first by the source. Okay, so what happened? The blue line actually send a signal of low voltage. The source has to send 1. That is why the source make this line connected to the VCC line. So what will happen? Suddenly this go high and wait for some time. Okay, this time interval is common to zeros and ones. So that means if this line is waiting for this much time, this will understand this is a 0, and if this line wait for same time, this will understand it is a high voltage, 1 bit is transferring. Then after another one more 1 is there. So instead of making this line to ground, this source will stay for some more time here. Okay, that means for this diagram, it is very clear that this much time is given to 0, this much time is given to a 1, and this much time given to another 1. That means till now 0, 1 and 1 has been transferred from source to sink. Then after, it's a time for 0 to transfer. So this blue line or data line is connected to the ground line. So this graph will become like this and wait for some time because 0 has to be transferred. Okay, so this is 0. Then after my MSB has to be transferred. So this blue line connected to the VCC by the source. So this will like this. Okay, so once this kind of waveform is generated by this data line, this sink will understand First it will get a 0, then a 1, then a 1, then a 0, again then a 1. So 1 for here like this. Okay, so this is the way of serial communication. It actually needed minimum 2 lines, one for data, one for ground line, or sometimes one more VCC line. Okay, and data transfer one by one bit after one bit. It is slow than parallel. The same example, before it was serial, let me remove this and make it parallel communication. Okay, for this parallel communication, if I am having 5 bits of data, I have to use 5 plus 1 lines. So because I need 1 line for ground. So when you remember, if you are designing some circuitry, so there are many power supply are there. For parallel communication, ground line never do any kind of communication. It is just to synchronize the data or the power supply. But to transfer 5 bit of data, I need 5 different lines. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, and these 5 data actually connected to the sink. Again, sometimes we also need one VCC line. Okay, this is VCC. So this is optional. VCC will be optional because if I am connected to the one supply here, another supply here, so no need to connect a VCC. But ground is must. This is must. Okay, this is optional. This is actually depend upon the designer who is designing this circuit. So whenever I want to send, for example, this line is responsible for MSB, and this line, the last line, is responsible for LSB. So MSB is 1. That means this source connect the first line to the VCC line, then second line to the ground line. So this is 1, this is 0. Then third line to the VCC line, fourth line to the VCC line, and fifth line to the ground line. So if the source actually connect this 5 line in this fashion, then sink automatically understand, because source and sink are handshake with a common ground. Okay, as it handshake with a common ground, the sink will understand this sense and this sense and this sense and this sense and this sense, and it actually recover all the data 10110. Okay, here we do not need some time to wait for transfer one data to another. To transfer n bit data, we need n plus 1 lines. Okay, n line for data and 1 line for ground. Sometimes VCC may be used, and this is very first than serial. Okay, and as number of wires is more, so it is very suitable for less distance, up to 1 to 5 meter. Consider this is a circuit. Okay, and I want to input some data, that is called in, and it has some output, that is called out. Okay, but I know some inputs are there and some outputs are there. If my device takes only serial data and it gives serial data also, it is called serial in, serial out. That is SISO, SISO. If my device takes serial input but it provides parallel output, we can say serial in, parallel out. SIPO. So we can say serial in, parallel out. SIPO. Or if my device take parallel input and provide serial output, we can say parallel in, serial out. PISO. Parallel in, serial out. PISO. And also if my device take parallel input and provide parallel output, we can say parallel in, parallel out. PIPO. Parallel in, parallel out. So data input is parallel and data output is also parallel. According to the operation, we have 4 different kind of registers in register family. Those are serial in, serial out, serial in, parallel out, parallel in, serial out, and parallel in, parallel out. So if you want to transfer the data in serial format, this is called temporal code, and if you transfer the data in parallel format, it is called spatial code. So you can say if the data is transferred serially, that kind of code is called temporal code, and if the data is transferred parallelly, then that kind of code is called spatial code. So in the next lecture, we will study about the registers one by one.